and at 'em, America. It's Friday.
It's Friday night. It's Friday night. Good morning, good morning.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
13 Lima Alpha 001 in the northwest of Germany.
Good morning, this is 192 Beta 462 calling. Your head, please.
169 Italy, we're standing by. This is 14 Division, Paris, France, calling CQDX, standing by. We check your microphone, modulation not so clear.
That's a good idea.
Radio maker 057, northbound, I'm calling. Lima Radio 76, Germany calling CQ and listening. CQ stateside, Lima Radio 76, Germany.
Alright, YouTube, hello, thank you for watching. Today I'm working on a President Madison. I'm thinking about putting a ddsvfo into this. And anyway, long story short, I've started to do that. Now I've got probably about 4 days into this. Somewhere I saw something that said you can install one of these in like an hour and a half or something like that. You know, even if you did these ddsvfos all day long, every day, I don't think you would even come close to being able to install one of these in an hour and a half. You know, if anybody wants to put one of these in, I'm not saying that it's hard to put one of these in, but I'm just saying is be prepared. It could be very time consuming, especially if you want to do a good job at doing it. Putting one of these into this President Madison here has proved to be a much longer task than it was to put one into the 142 GTL. Just fitting the display on this is several hours. But anyway, so I made some voltage regulator boards here. So here's the voltage regulator for the OLED display. Here's the voltage reference board for the clarifier to make sure the clarifier doesn't walk. There's a little surface mount reference diode that goes down in here that I don't have just yet. That's why I flipped this board here upside down. So there's our 13.8 volts coming in, which is common to this regulator over here. The voltage regulator for the oscillator I put on this board. On the 142 GTL I did the last time, I tore all these parts out of the board and built the voltage regulator down there, which was really nice to do that. But it just doesn't seem like the best idea in the world to rip a bunch of stuff out that you really don't have to take out of the radio. So I just went through what it took to put it on a separate board and mounted it as close as it could possibly be to where the oscillator is going to set, which is right here where this chip is. This PLL will come out at some point here to get the SI5351 board set down in here. So it was kind of a ditto of the 142 GTL. I made a duplicate box which is going to set down here, and then I'll cut this out so the cables can slide down in the end there like so. Same thing with the lid. There's a chassis ground strap that goes across here, so I just had to cut that off, unsolder it, and run the chassis ground on the other side of the board. That way this box would be able to set into that spot there. I got all the cables over here. One cable that looks like this goes to the display. This one here goes to this is power to the display. So both of these cables will go onto the display. This one here will go to the encoder. This one down here will come to the oscillator board for the SDA and the SCL connections, which will mount down in here when I pull the PLL out. So all the cables are in place. Now as far as the display went, that display was a real son of a bitch. And it's very, very time consuming to put this stuff on video. You know, I can't always put stuff on video as I do it because number one, the camera's in the way. And all these wires were pulled out, and the board and the channel selector pulled out of there. These wires, of course, were left in because they're for the LEDs. Pulled the LED display out. Now getting that in there was a real son of a bitch because There's really two ways to do this. You can do this the hard way, or you can do it the easier way. In this radio, the easier way wasn't even the easier way. Sometimes what people do, and I think it's really cheesy and it just shows laziness, but what they'll do is hot glue the OLED display to the front face. And you couldn't even do that in this one, at least not initially, because there was a raised box where the LED numeric display sat into it. So the front face wasn't flush. So all that had to be ground out and milled down to make a flat surface around the opening hole up here, if you kind of follow me. Now there was no lip on the top. It was just around 3/4 of the box. This board had to be chewed down too. You can see the pins right there laying right along the edge of the top of the board. I milled the board down fractions of millimeters basically in order to get that OLED display setting down away from the very top. And the reason I did that is because when I put this into the 142 GTL the last time, and what happened is it basically cut off top of the display. It's kind of a nuisance to look at it unless you're looking at it straight on, because the display actually needed shifted down a little bit. Hard to kind of really burn my ass here because I hate to do this. You know, I say this all the time, I'm like a broken record. I like to keep everything in a radio that I can possibly keep this original. I don't like to take out anything or modify anything unless it's absolutely 3000% necessary. I had to lose the lens. There's no way in hell to put white light through this filter. I don't know what the story is with these filters. I know why they put the filter there. But what happens is if you try to pass white light through this, what you would think would be a red filter, it comes through purple. These lenses are a real pain in the ass. I mean, it looks very, very humdrum. It's all over dust. There's actually pieces of glue strings over top of the OLED display, which will come off when I peel the protective coating over it. But you can kind of see it. Kind of like sucks the life right out of the damn front of the radio when you have to do this shit. I mean, the radio would have looked so much better using this on there. But I mean, who in the hell could look at a purple display? I mean, I think it really would clash with this radio. You know what this radio's got going on for it is this neon green clock. Purple against neon green would not work. It wouldn't work against any of the LEDs in here. There's a blue, amber, a white, and a red, which are pretty hard to see down in there for the modes. Purple just wouldn't go with them. But I think white will. Unfortunately, you don't really know until you get it installed as to what it's going to look like. I think it's going to be fine. That there is like such a incredibly precise fit. I don't even think there's a gap to pop it out of there. I cut this out of a piece of Lexane. And all you have to do is breathe on this stuff and you scratch it. There was a lot of glue in here. I cleaned up pretty good. And I think it's going to be fine around the OLED display. You can see there's a portion of the circuit board that's exposed at the top. But I think it's going to be all right. The bottom's going to be blacked out real good. The sides, light's really not going to come through the sides because I literally have that OLED display within thousandths of an inch in that slot. I mean, it's so damn precise. It would kind of blow your mind. The reason I say that is because sometimes you got to black this back on here so that when you put this up, there's blacking on the back side of this. You can black them out with like a non-reflective black marker. Paint marker or something is actually the best. Black this all out so that when you set that in there, the only thing that's open are these LEDs and exactly what you want to see around this channel display. And it's an extremely daunting and precision task to do that. Yeah, I'm just not sure if I'm going to have to do that on this or not. That's why I kind of cleaned up the back here. There's still some little tiny remnants of glue, because when you're dealing with the front face of a radio, I mean, the smallest of anything being out of whack, I mean, you just notice it instantly. That's kind of the pain in the ass of messing with things on the front of a radio. The glue isn't really even soluble with alcohol isopropyl 99.9, so if 99.9 isopropyl doesn't get it off, I mean, what the hell will? Acetone would eat it off, but that sure as hell eat the plastic too. I mean, it fits in there so precise you don't even have to glue the damn thing in. I mean, why put glue in there if you don't have to? Because getting them out of there is a real pain in the ass. They have like a sticky kind of, it's almost like a tarry kind of asphalt on the back of them, which is real tacky. It doesn't really do the blacking. The blacking is this film that's around those areas. But there's like something tacky that they coat these with. So anyway, I had to space the OLED display 4 millimeters. It was somewhere between 3.5 and 4 millimeters off the front surface of this board. So there was a spacer glued behind the OLED display. It's a real pain in the ass. I mean, all you have to do is basically breathe on that OLED display and you can probably damage it. Doing this takes a lot of handling of that display. That's what I'm trying to say to you. Here's the 5351. This is the board that will end up setting down here where the PLL is. And then what I do is just put pins down here on the bottom, pull the PLL out, and find a sweet spot to set this board. There's some stuff in here that I'm probably going to have to pull out to isolate some pads when I set that in there. But other than that, I'm leaving everything else in. Now another thing too, when you do this, I mean, you got to be extremely careful, because if you don't pay attention to exactly what kind of height you got in there, if you tighten these things down, you can end up smashing your OLED right against the front. So that's something to be very careful of. I mean, there's zero room for error on this. I mean, you got to sit here with a pair of vernier calipers and measure things obsessively, because if not, you're going to have a train wreck. So there's actually spacers on the other side of this board there that set this board back a little bit further than it originally did. There's just some bushings that are setting in these holes, and you can put the screws right through the bushing, and the bushing will space that board back, if you follow what I'm getting at. And also there was a clearance issue with, there's like a cavity here that goes around those LEDs in the front face, just the same as that plastic that was raised that went around 3 sides of the LCD display. This OLED display basically sets down on the very edge of that kind of cavity that's around those LEDs. That's just how crazy it is. Anyway, thanks for watching my video. Take care and have a great day.